Are you bored yet? Nah. Mark III Fiesta now. Now this car at the time of filming is up for sale at, I believe, Smith's Classics. Now it has been advertised elsewhere. I believe it's up for around £7,000, and there is a reason for that. It's just incredibly original. It is slightly tidier than Ruby, but Ruby will be catching up at some point with a bit of TLC. But this is a Popular Plus. Okay, so you have this sort of, I think, the Meriden trim, I think is what they called it. Sort of, you've got the sort of blue, yellow and purple stitching. It feels cheap, but it feels quite functional. It's quite decent material. They are actually quite hard wearing. These seats have been glued back down, and that's another job for on Ruby, unless I've done it already. I don't know. I might have done by the time this video comes out. But we have the Steelies because it's a Pop Plus, so yeah, just Steelies. Yeah, that's it. Nothing else on that one because it's what you got. We've got some stripes just here and there. I think these would have been fitted brand new. It's untouched, this car. It's just untouched. We've got mixed Michelins, and obviously because it's an early Mark III, we get the square indicators as shared by many Fords, from everything from this to a Transit. Obviously the Mark III was very much a much more modern car than a Mark II box, because that's what it is. It's the box Fiesta, and that's how most people refer to them, and I refer to it as such because they are boxy things, aren't they? They're great cars. These are great cars because they just looked so modern for 1989. This is on a G plate, so it's a bit slightly younger than Ruby, not that much younger though. It was registered by Gates, and hence why we've got this lovely dealership sticker on the back window. We've got these lovely mud flaps at the back as well. Ruby doesn't have them. We've got a lovely badge on the boot, and we've got some fantastic paint on the boot. Yeah, we'll gloss over that one. Makes me feel rubbish about Ruby. Fiesta 1.1, and this is the interesting case here. We've actually got the sticker Popular Plus in the packet with the history file on this car. It's a big history file. The owner did not want the Popular Plus sticker put on the back. They didn't want it. Why? Probably because one of the reasons they actually ditched the Popular and Popular Plus in 1992 is because it just, people associated it with cheap. Yeah, I know, well, it's a cheap car. What the heck do you expect? You know, a Ferrari. Well, obviously the person of this car obviously thought so. So he didn't want the sticker put on, but the 1.1, yeah, absolutely. And as you can see, registered in Gates, believe it in, I think Essex. We are in that country here. And just flip the seats up with this lovely flipper, obviously being the 3-door. And as usual, we got just usual carpet. Yeah, everything pretty familiar, apart from obviously these big door cards. There's no bins. There's no bins at all. There's an ashtray over that side, but there's no bins. Oh, come on. But everything is really nice and clean. And we have a slightly different arrangement for the sunroof. So again, it's the sort of similar pop-up to what you got in the Mark II. And yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't a twist dial, so on the gears you had a bit more. And also the material of the sunroof, it's not a material, it's just no, it's not nice. It's just a plastic backing, even though it looks very similar to Ruby's. It's not. The gears had a material, although there is a material around the sunroof which I'm pretty pleased by, actually. Sort of a material that's sort of being gripped by the sunroof. Everything else is in astonishing condition. It really is. We've obviously got wind-up windows. We got loads of extras here. Wind-up windows. That, oh yes, yes, yes. Bit wiggly that, but got a lovely bit of storage. Obviously, we don't have a handle because we need room for the windy window. So therefore, the armrest that you got on the gears didn't really exist on these. And we don't. Oh gosh, what are we missing here? We don't even have a center console in this. What's this? No, there was no center console in the base models. You just got a gear lever, a handbrake, and Well, a heater vent for your feet, yes, absolutely. One thing that I don't have at the moment is these lovely waffle mats that you get with Mark III Fiestas. They are very nice mats indeed. Oh yes, indeed. We got the usual very, very nice looking switches as much as functionality. Everything is very familiar. We have a security system, but not like I've got sensors on the A and B pillars. This is something very different. We have a key for that system as well. Unlike Ruby, we don't have a rev counter. We just have some warning lights over here. They'd normally be over here in Rubies. Now they're not, they're over here. So it's really poverty spec, this. And yeah, the steering wheels are good. The badge is really good on the steering wheel. It's been garaged, you know, that sort of thing. You would expect that to be. But everything is as you would expect. But I'll just pop the bonnet. Lovely, fantastic. And let's go and have a look. Slams nice, it shuts nicely, and just so clean. That's really, really nice and clean. Obviously, because it was a lowly spec, no trims on the bumpers, guys. No trims whatsoever. Even the front badge is looking good on this. Oh, that's clean. That is probably one of the cleanest Mark III engine bays I have ever seen. Particularly with this engine, the Kent engine can leak a bit of oil. This one is far cleaner. There's no rust on it whatsoever. It's very clean. This cast iron really goes a bit gummy. But this nice blue finish on the rocker cover is really nicely preserved. There's just nothing, and there's no signs that it's leaking any oil, and we just ran it for now, and we'd tell if there was oil. Interestingly, on the alternator, there's a heat shield on the back of the alternator to stop heat from the exhaust getting to the alternator. I don't have that on Ruby, I just have a plastic cover. That's quite interesting. Similar alternator, a Lucas A125. Geeky knowledge there. We look as if we've had a new starter motor at some point. That looks very, very clean, and the connections look very clean indeed. The radiator's possibly being looked at. The radiator, or the electric fan, there's not as many blades on this one as Ruby's. That's interesting. I don't know, I'm pretty sure there's not as many blades. Okay, I'll have to have a look at that. The cross member, wow. That's what my cross member looks like now. It didn't used to look like that. That is very clean. That's just factory paint still on it. The factory coating is still in existence. We have got a bit of plastic degradation, unfortunately. Now this is the thing. This car, even being a G-Reg, it has a few sensors that weren't there, well, aren't available on my car being an F-Reg. My car being an F-Reg has absolutely nothing in the way of sensors whatsoever. But there was some form of control happening in the Fiesta Mark III. The early Fiesta Mark IIIs, particularly the F-Regs, they do not have anything. No ECUs, no control whatsoever. But if you look at this wiring, what does it go to? Does anybody know what that is? Yes, crankshaft position sensor. So they started adding some electronic control. Oh yes. And this one, obviously, we still have a carburetor in there, under there, but we have some electronic control a little bit. So things were happening a little bit. But overall, I think everything else is quite familiar. We got a coil pack on the back side of that. Yep, there's a coil pack instead of a distributor. So things had changed a little bit. So even on G-Regs, things were starting to move towards injection and a few other bits and pieces. And obviously that carried on to the Mark 3.5, which had, you know, single point fuel injection on all the models, a CAT, all the sensors galore, more than just that sensor. So there was a lot of adaptations that were made to the Mark III to add all these sensors in, which is why I think an F-Reg is quite pure in a way, because there's just nothing to it. It has added red coolant, and I'm very tempted to do that with Ruby, actually, putting red coolant in instead of blue, because all the blue stuff has been flushed out, and the water pump has been changed. If you've got the original water pump, it's not a good idea to have red stuff, because the water pumps, the original ones, were not made for it, whereas the new stuff is. So each their own on that one. You can go about a couple of different things to sort of change that, but it's just ridiculously clean. I'm getting over this. We have a tiny little platinum battery with, well, because of that, square connectors. We've got some sort of cut-off switch going on there, but they can be a bit intermittent, these, when they don't work, trust me. The brake lines, just, yeah, like rubies, they've just turned out nice and grit, just so green. In fact, these are even more green. It's almost like they've been, has he been polishing these? There is a tag fitted to all the brake master cylinders, this red tag. Unfortunately, I chucked rubies in the bin. That was stupid of me. I thought it was just a piece of rubbish. Stupid me. But nevertheless, it's so clean. I mean, look under there, it's just totally garaged. It's a nice corner paint. So I'm going to leave you with this, and also obviously we've got, obviously on Ruby, as you know, I've got an aftermarket one with just a standard locksmith key. Obviously, the idea is that the key for the ignition and the doors operate the fill filler flap as well. I may look to actually sorting that out and maybe swapping and making a barrel up from the shims that I bought from the driver's door lock. Anyway, concentrate on this car. But, look at that, you've got blue paint markings on the factory on the bottom arms. That is something that when they disappear, they disappear. Look at the back box. Just incredibly tidy. And I'm going to leave that here for you to ponder, guys. But that is where we are, and I'm really pleased to have had the privilege of seeing this car before it goes to its new owner, and that will not be very long. But I'm just going to leave you with some sounds of Mark III. Much more refined, isn't it? They're all peaches, aren't they? Original time warp cars. How does he find these cars? He looks. If you go looking, you find. If you go travelling, you get the car. It's as simple as that. If you want a car of your dreams, if you keep looking and hope that you'll find one, you probably will find one. It's as simple as that. And then it's a question of money. But if you do the first thing and the second thing first, the money's not such an issue. It's finding them, that's the point. I wouldn't have found Ruby if I hadn't have gone looking, and this is where it leads me. So car collecting is quite addictive. We have some more cars to see, and this is the next one. Oh yes, and we have a Mark III Cavalier in this absolutely gorgeous red colour, very vibrant in it. A solid red, an LS, just like the Corsa, an LS, so steels with wheel trims, pretty much as you would expect, the ultimate. And this is probably what you'd have got as a company car around about that time. We're talking 1992, K-Reg, 1.8 injection, and that was really important as well back in the day. Had to have injection, and got this lovely black moulded piece that goes across at the top of these headlights, of these rear lights I should say. That's fantastic. I love how it just all connects in one fell swoop. This is what you got, and if you had a company car, this is kind of one of the options that you would have probably had mostly. Most people remember them as company cars, some of them as family cars, or both in that respect. We've got a few door catch issues, a bit lazy, but it's all, again, really tidy. And I'm going to repeat myself again, one owner from new. Guess why they got rid of it? They didn't want to get rid of it. They got rid of it because of ULEZ. This car was within the ULEZ zone in London, and they had to get rid of it. I say had to, I'd have probably fought a bit more, but I'm afraid that's what happens. These door catches are really very soft springs. That's quite satisfying. Usually you're fighting the spring when you're putting your hands on it. Interesting, very airbag warning sign. And we get in, and unlike the Corsa, this doesn't have a new car smell, but it does smell of the 90s / a bit of cigarette action. Now, we might have a few micro cracks in the dashboard, but apart from that, from a bit of sun damage, it's unmolested again. Nice, thick headrest with a hole through the middle. Absolutely perfect. And we have all the information, driver information, everything you need. This has been a recent purchase that Rob has made, and it was going for very little because, again, unmodified examples like this are very rare, but at the same time, people don't really think they're worth that much. That is a much more nicer material to touch than what was on the Fiesta Mark II, for instance. Soft and matching the seats really nicely. The seats are worn really nicely with this very 80s sort of style piping. Electric windows, obviously, potentially. I don't know, actually. What does they do? I'm going to have to ask Rob about that one again. I'm assuming that. We have an analog clock. No numbers, just a load of dashes and two hands, and we know it's a clock. Who knows to that? But we have this lovely heating control, which is really, everything in here is a bit chunky, a bit more functional. Again, it's okay. It's a bit chunky. It's a bit, you can feel the cheapness in the plastic. It doesn't ever feel like it's going to break, but it feels quite chunky. And that's quite a soft indicator sound, I would say. Very soft relay sound. Interesting place to put a hazard warning switch. We have got obviously distribution, so you can have it at your feet, or if you put it over here, you can have it at your face, or you can kind of have it in between if you move the lever there. So you're kind of a bit random. It's not completely not self-explanatory there. You have to work that one out. Some people wouldn't put that 2 and 2 together. That was with that is linked to those two. This one is obvious. Obviously, we got windscreen, or maybe not as much towards the windscreen, I'm assuming. Blanking plugs because we didn't pay enough money. It's not a high enough model. But we have a heated rear windscreen at the back in the hatch. Yeah, pretty much. Aftermarket radio, again, it's quite a theme actually. We've got this lovely cubby with this rubber bung at the bottom just to keep everything in place. But there's a lot of places for your stacky CDs or cassette or whatever the radio was. And then we have this sort of flip out ashtray, that's really nice. You just flip it out and it all comes out under like a little sort of step mechanism. And yeah, plenty of space there for your ash or your coins, and another unused cigarette lighter. It's completely unused. Look how clean that is. So not a smoker, and I can't smell any smoke in this car whatsoever. A bit tatty around this. I think these used to fall apart quite easy. We'll swap one over to get a better one. Handbrake is towards the left hand side, but feels quite nice again. It's just the material's gone a bit, the vinyl has started to sort of come away a little bit. It's like a sort of Folks leather. Interestingly, how this is kind of, it just looks like there's something supposed to be there. Maybe just for a few coins or something to go there, but it looks as if it's just going to fall off the end, which is a bit funny. Nice seatbelt protection. It's quite fancy actually. Nice little shape instead of sort of square design that you normally get. Are we missing a Vauxhall badge, or was that standard? I've got a feeling it might have been standard, just imprinted into the airbag, which made early 90s, mid 90s cars look a bit bulbous in the steering wheel department. Yeah, manufacturers were thinking of ways of making that look better. Horn test. That's quite a friendly two-tone. It is a two-tone horn, by the way. And as per the Corsa, lovely squidgy rubber. Very, very nice feedback I get through there. We get rev counter, speedometer. It's done 109,000 miles, so it's you know, it's higher miles than the rest of the cars on Rob's fleet. But got lovely speakers in the corner popping up, and on this side just chunky buttons, blank headlight leveling control, and the usual. I believe the keys in the ignition. No, the key's not in the ignition. I need to go and get the key. We have, I think, a little cubby hole down here. I think that's to cover the fuses. The speaker grills kind of protrudes quite a lot, actually, out the door cards. But it all feels quite nice. There's enough room for drinks in here, and this material's a really nice, soft touch fabric with all the indented colours. Just so sort of early 90s. And the plastics are not bad at all either. They feel quite firm and smooth and kind of what you would expect at this price point. Obviously, you've got some adjustments on the mirrors just a little bit. We can look at the Mark III Fiesta a little bit. Yeah, and again, you have to move. Oh, that's not too bad. That is far better than most Fords. You just move it a little bit and it moves. You have to move it far further than Fords. As I say, just chunky door switches and central locking that works, which is what you got. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. That's exactly what you would expect from this. Right. Where's that bonnet catch on this one? Right, there we go. Right, rather embarrassingly, I couldn't open the bonnet. There is a gap here. Put your hand in and, yeah, move that, Andrew. That's how you do it. It was a bit stiff. Right. Yeah. Very, very tidy here. Pink coolant again, and yeah, engine lacquer all over the place on this one. Vauxhall engine lacquer turning yellow. That's what you want to see. Completely original. And this one, a bit wet in a few places, but again, I think this might have been a Family 2 engine. Ooh, somebody can possibly correct me on that one because I'm a bit vague with GM engines. But I'm definitely not a Luton person. But we've got an end-on distributor coil pack, I believe. I think it's a coil pack with single point injection, I believe. Yes, it'll be single point injection, so throttle body injection again. Obviously, big thing to have injection on cars at this age. Very nice indeed. Look at that, you got a little cut through for the steering arm. Look at the steering arms. Wow, that's an interesting one. Ooh, really nice, very clean, very tidy. Again, GM logos all over the place, just really serviceable. Had a few gates, water hoses put in, new radiator has been put in, the dipstick is in one piece. We've got thin dodgy wiring as per every car this age, and some grease on the battery terminals, of which I have said that's not a good idea. That's just my opinion. But we do have this thing here, and most people know that is power steering. Oh yes, we have power assisted steering. This is a peach of a car again that's been bought for a very cheap price, and this car does absolutely start on the button. I'm not, as I say, a Vauxhall man, but that is very, very tidy, and it's an absolute bargain for what it is. Right, make sure it's not in gear, put it in neutral, and we got the lovely key in here, and let's start this up. Ooh, and I'm not joking you, this is a coldish start. Look at the temperature gauge. That's a coldish start-ish. I'm completely cold. Listen to that engine. Listen to that purr. Oh my goodness me. It's not even working. Just so silent, it's untrue. That is such a refined engine, it's untrue. Obviously it's overhead cam with a cam belt. That is, I tell you what, that is one heck of a long belt that goes all the way from the alternator all the way to the front. Lemon out to the power steering pump at the front. That's ridiculous. That is very long indeed. But I tell you what, you can't hear anything. It's so refined. I think that's even more refined than Zetec and Sigma engines. That's, I tell you what, more refined than a Sigma, and the Sigma hadn't come out yet. Well, just about coming out in 1992. This is more refined. That says a lot about GM engines from this time. This is the golden era of Vauxhalls and GM. Right, next one is the last one, well, almost the last one of this collection. Last one in this security lockup. I cannot show you what is behind this Fiesta. I'm just moving the Cavalier straight out the way. Just such a refined car. I cannot tell you. Just listen to it. It's just so refined, it's ridiculous. This is such a lovely collection of cars. I mean, look at that picture. Love that, love that, love that, love that. And a lot of people love these as well. A Mark IV Escort on an F-Reg, F985M00. Oh, I should say. Don't get the numbers mixed with my letters, Andrew. Mark IV Escorts with the very rare headlamp protectors. Oh, yes, the Ford emblem in the corner there. Very, very nice. This car has been owned by Rob not for very long. It was auctioned at Anglia Car Auctions not long ago for a few £1,000s. It is in like a time warp condition, like the rest of them. It is a 1.4 LX, so middle of the range. You got some nicer trims. Apparently the trims on these you can't get hold of. They're incredibly rare as well. I think it explains why so many people just put pepper pots on them, or XR alloys, all sorts of aftermarket ones, because you can't get the trims. You don't want steel wheels showing, so I'll just go pepper pots. I can understand that, because it's incredible for such a mass-produced car that stuff like that is just unobtainable. It baffles me with Ruby, being a Fiesta of all things. And, you know, I say the Escort, it's lovely gutters. There's no rust in these gutters. I've seen quite a few of these not existent. I think I've seen quite a few Escorts, probably about 15 years ago, when they were still knocking around as old bangers. And they haven't got any gutters. Someone's just cut it out and filled it across because they've just rot. Lovely window guide as usual. And Rob's got quite a few things on the wall. He parks the Corsa next to this, by the way, and naturally an illuminated Ford sign on this side. It's a bit of a man cave, this, and I'm sure we would all like some storage space. Just move the Corsa back in. I'm going to have to go over that in a second. I can film that. I have just been told I can film that. I just wanted to check. Yeah, red pinstripe on the bumper, being the LX, so you had an insert on the inside. It's very what you would generically know as a Ford. Yeah, I love this. It's just yes, okay, it has a lot of resemblance to Mark II Fiestas, the steering wheel and a few other bits and pieces, and this car is completely and utterly unmodified. Oh yeah, sorry. There's people that are going, well, that's not an original steering wheel. That's an XR2 steering wheel. I know it's an XR2i steering wheel. But, no, it'd be an XR3i steering wheel, sorry. Got my cars mixed up there. Because we have perforated leather. How could this be original? An LX wouldn't have got this. A Gear wouldn't have got that. The customer who bought this car, believe it or not, did not want a standard steering wheel. He wanted an XR3i steering wheel. And he got one, and it's been on the car since brand new. This car has never had a standard wheel fitted that would have been originally fitted. Unbelievable. It has, obviously, the joystick. Yes, fantastic. I don't know what that is. I don't quite work out. Ah, it's the choke. Sorry, the choke was actually sitting inside the dashboard. Oh, that's really nice, actually. I like how it's very nicely integrated. I didn't even realise that was the choke. I've learned something new today. Just looks so flush, and it just looks like a button. It doesn't look like a choke. That's a really good design feature. And as someone who actually not particularly familiar with Mark IV Escorts, that's caught me out just now on camera. We got the usual switches, which we like. Got a rev counter, which goes up to 7,500 RPM, which CVH might be able to do. Yep, we got a nice speedometer, fuel and temperature. Very basic, very good for warning lights, but nothing outrageous. We got the usual heater vents here. We got, yeah, nice fan and just all clunky knobs. I mean, that isn't smooth. This isn't smooth. This is, hear this. Yeah, that's not smooth at all. I think that's a bit cheap, really cheap, really cheap. Cassette player, it works exactly like Ruby's. Well, cassette player radio works perfectly. Coin tray, cigarette lighter, and we have a kind of gap between the console and the center console. This is at an age where the center dashboard wasn't quite integrated with the center console. This is what you call a center console in the 80s. It was a tiny bit of plastic around maybe the handbrake, in this case not. A bit of plastic around the gear lever, and then it kind of stops over here. But there are slots for your cassettes. That's important. Usual glove box, which is just about open. Very nice indeed. Yeah. Yeah, cheap plastics and all that, but nothing's broken and everything is nice. I mean, to be fair, that's really handy, that is. Oh, it's very handy because Rob's been doing something, hence why there's a few bolts in there that I recognise. There's a nice little T-shelf there in the middle. Oh, it's really nice. Oh, these indicator stalks. Yeah, really nice. Really nice. And obviously the usual hazards. Batteries not connected completely. But the only thing I'd say is, what were they trying to do with the indicator stalks? I mean, were they trying to do something different? Because I think that's quite a clever idea. But these tiny little stalks, what the heck? I don't think that caught on. Yeah, it's very Ford-like, isn't it? But this, I'm not so sure about that. And then the same, well, that one doesn't do anything, and that one is just for the windscreen washer. It's just not so sure about that one. We have the usual door card dissolution where it starts to deteriorate. But we've got the usual. Nah, not at all. At least we've got the usual scratches on the plastic where they look all aged. Got decent cubby space. We've got waffle mats. Yeah, all nice. BC box as usual because it's manual. Got a nice handbrake here and standard square clickies. We've got nice wheels to adjust the adjustment of the backrest. And yeah, soft headrests. Not as squidgy as the Mark III Fiesta, but oh, this is the time where they actually showed the exterior paint in the car. Obviously, in the Mark V Escort and the Mark III Fiesta, they got rid of that. They put a bit of trim over it, a bit of plastic trim to cover it up. But these were the days where you could see bits of the exterior paint inside the car. But it kind of goes quite nicely. I think that's quite neat, and because it's a really clean car, it's really tidy. That's gone a bit wavy, that B pillar. I think. Is it usually like this? I think the B-pillar trim has gone a bit. I'm pretty sure that's not a standard factory finish. We have really nice door mirrors as well. It's just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Shut the door and not quite shut the door. Fantastic. Love that. Nice door shut. And at the back. Yeah, very nice. If you notice that the grey on this car is much lighter than the one on Ruby. Yeah, that's much lighter. It's a completely different. That's closer to Tempest Grey, which is fitted to the Maestro out there. Painted. That is the type of overspray. It's not been resprayed. This car hasn't been resprayed. That is actually factory. Would you believe it? That is actually factory paint that they oversprayed and they just left it. So it's things like that have given me a bit of confidence in having to go at the paint on Ruby, because it wouldn't have looked great in the first place. And I've seen a lot of restored Escorts with things like that are just perfect now. That's not how it would come out the factory. It was literally spray it on, out the door it goes. You know, it's as simple as that. But the bench seat at the back, this is a nice, comfortable seat. It's not unsupportive, it's just a bit of foam, you know. It's nice. Yeah, it's very nice indeed. Oh, I forgot to tell you about that. The customer, as well as ordering the steering wheel, decided he wanted the blinds as well to go at the back. A very rare factory blind set. Oh, unbelievable. This is just an absolute peach of a car. And there's no rust on it whatsoever. There isn't. There just isn't. Now, I'm going to quickly just show you at the front, because the bonnet is open, and we have the familiar looking front-ish, even though it's a family appearance, Mark IV Escort, Mark III Fiestas, and right, I'm going to hold this bonnet up for a second. That is one clean engine bay of a CVH car. Lovely Lucas battery over there, no Lion battery rubbish. We've a battery cut-off, as usual, on a few of these cars. Got this surrounded air intake for the heater fan and everything, so it's completely sort of separate from the rest of the scuttle. Got a lovely fuse box over there, wiper motor, all exposed. A bit more accessible than a Mark III Fiesta. Expansion tank with OAT coolant, because the water pump has been changed. Lovely Ford stickers. That's an original sticker, that is, on that can cover. I love to see things like that. It's just little details here and there. The tubing is all very good. We've got some, yeah, the tubing's okay on this one. You could just see the floor. That's the beauty of cars this age. You just see everything. The BC box is nice and clean. The original coil is over there, although I dare say, how good is it these days? Slick 50, friction reducer. Remember that stuff? Yeah, this car had it in abundance, apparently. The first owner loved the stuff. Stop. Do not discard. This vehicle is equipped with a non-disposable air filter. Service filter every 50 to 100,000 miles. Interesting. K&N. So someone has fitted a K&N to this car at some point for extra performance. Right. Firstly, this engine has a couple of issues. Firstly, this car is like, when you collect cars, every car you buy, yes, your finance is a further stretch, but also your mileage is somewhat stretched, because we only do so many miles a year as people. And if you buy another car, that means potentially that car is going to take away miles from other cars. So your mileage ends up being spread out. So if you're someone who generally does 5,000 to 6,000 miles a year, and you've got two cars, well, one car is doing, well, in my case, let's say 5,000 miles in Beatrix and 1,000 miles in the Focus every year. But when you buy a third car, let's say Ruby, then you're spreading it over a bit more. And what's happened with this car is it's got to the point in Rob's car collection where he's got a couple of cars that he knows he should use a bit more, but haven't been used a lot. To be fair, these are very stealable cars. And you want to keep these away because the rust, and they deserve to be in a nice home. Although, you know, not every time you can give that sort of home to these cars, but you have to try these things, don't you? And that's important to recognise. And this car, I think, jokingly, and this is no joke whatsoever, the mileage that this car did from one MOT to the next last year was about 9 miles. And the distance between here and the MOT centre is 2 miles. So you work that out. So 4 miles of that was going to and from the MOT centre, and there's another 5 miles that somehow has come out of nowhere. That's it. So yeah, he's only driven it 9,000 miles a year between MOTs. So naturally, what was going to happen? We've got a problem. This car is a 1.4, same engine as Ruby, exactly the same, and it's got exactly the same carburettor. And Rob has taken some inspiration from my videos, and he's taken it off completely. And we're having a look. He's having a look at the carburettor. Now I've just reset some of the systems for him, so hopefully the carburettor will start properly. But the car wouldn't start. It refused to start at all. And I must stop talking because we've got this lovely sound coming in. Now, we had the running issue where it just wouldn't start at all, and we were trying to figure out there are not many things that would go wrong with this configuration. This is the same configuration I've got in Ruby. Distributor, we've had a new one of these ignition amplifiers. I might need to get a spare one, and obviously heat shrink. Please use the packet that comes with it. You do need to put heat shrink on. They do not like having no heat shrink. Obviously we've got genuine Ford Motorcraft HT leads, exactly like the ones Ruby is fitted with, exactly. Although mine has a bit of, I can't see the Motorcraft on mine, but I know they're Ford ones, so that's really nice to see. Apart from that, running issues are down to general air leaks. So we're looking at a few things, but there's very few. There's no electrics, there's no ECU, there's nothing. There's two things that could be the problem. It could be the ignition system, which looks to be in good health, and the carburetor. And the carburetor is what is, I think, at fault. The carburetor is a bit gummy. And unfortunately, gummy carburetors happen when you only drive it 9,000 miles a year. So, you know, he knows he needs to drive it more, and he will be. Once this is up and running, I think he'll want to drive it a bit more, because this is one of the nicest ones in his collection, I think. Just on pure nostalgia. A lot of people have got bad things to say about Escorts. A lot of people have got good things to say. It depends what area you come from. I'm both on the region of Austin Rover products and Ford products. That's my channel, and this is what I enjoy. And some people on one side, some people are not on the other. But overall, you can't argue that this car, like a lot of family hatchbacks, shifted people around, and they deserve our attention, and this gets it 100%. A really nice example of what is now a bona fide classic, and it will be working at some point. You may have gathered that where I am is kind of a garage. There's a lot of activity going on around. Most of these cars have not been actually moved this much in a while, but that's the problem with having so many cars. You just can't stay on top of it, and we've got a list. But this is a car I'm going to show you that Rob doesn't own. It is owned by somebody here, and I can film it, but I'm not going to go into massive detail about it because of what it's worth. Some of you may already know what this is by the last video. It is wrapped under covers, and it is owned by somebody who has a lot of money, and you need a lot of money to own one of these. I think you know what this is. And no, guys, this is not a replica. This is a genuine Le Mans car. Genuine. Probably £500,000 worth of car, I don't know, but that is what it is. It is basically a D-type underneath. Basically, it is D-type. This is what they were. It has a heck of a lot of history, and I will just shove the camera, if I can, just pop this around the exhaust. There isn't actually a fair amount to see. I was going to actually get you in there, but there is an awful lot of stuff piled on this car, and please don't ask me how this has happened, but this car is in very, very safe keeping. It's not something I can really add to because my history is rather vague on this cars. I'm not an out-and-out Jaguar person, although, you know, I do like the odd later XJ, as you've seen. But this car, yeah, it's worthy of a bit of attention, because one day this will be brought out and it will be enjoyed again. But God knows when that will be, because I don't think the owner really knows what he's got. I think he does, but I don't know. Fingers crossed on that one. But it will see the light again. Back home. I can smell the petrol. Good night. And that is a pretty amazing collection of cars. I just love looking at people's collection, why they collect them. And Rob started his career at Rover. That's how he started. So he knows all about the Rover cars, and his Austin Rovers, particularly this car over here, he's quite attached to that, and I can understand why. And then he's got into his Vauxhalls, and he's always been into his Fords as well, so kind of very similar to myself. So not surprising that I got to know him so well. And that's what the car community is about. It's about finding new people, meeting new friends, and seeing some lovely cars. And I think that's the amazing thing that is special about the car community. It's making friends, and it's a social thing. I'm going to leave this here with the back image of this car. I'm going to set my sights off home. I have got a couple of errands to run with Beatrix, mainly car parts, since I'm down in the way of Kent and potentially going to Essex for a few things. Anyway, I will see you very soon. Have a happy Christmas. You take care. Right. See you guys.